We haven't talked much about Rivian today, so let's dive in. With the R2 dropping this year, are Q3 or Q4 earnings expected to see a significant jump in revenue? Thanks.
So the likelihood that Q3 and Q4 would have significant, or Q3 in particular would have significant revenue growth is low. Um, well, actually, I take that back. Depends what you mean by significant. Um, it will largely depend on whether or not they can scale it quickly. And I wish we had a date on when in the first half of 2026 they're going to release. Like if they were going to release in April or late March or something like that, I would say yes. Q3 they should have a pretty decent number, and Q4 for sure they should have a decent number because they should be able to scale by then a decent volume of sales. But because the growth curve of or the scaling curve is super slow but exponential, it's like this S curve that occurs in manufacturing, where initially the quantities that will be produced will be very small, but that will grow exponentially over time. Uh, it might not have as much of an effect on Q3 numbers if they don't release until June, right? So that would be the potential pain there. But Rivian in general, I know a lot of people, I've been seeing sort of like the comments on X, a lot of people are losing patience. And what's interesting is that patience is probably the hardest part of investing. Like basically you're putting money into something and waiting some period of time and hoping to take more money out, right? And and during this time that you're waiting, this the the fluctuations can be super frustrating, and oftentimes you look at other things that are just like on this like very rapid growth curve. So what you have to realize when investing is that not everything goes on this sort of like rapid rocket ship immediate growth. uh, and you have to wait out the thesis that you had as to why you invested in the first place. So in my case, my thesis for Rivian has been that the R2 is going to be a best-selling product, and they're going to be able to sell every vehicle that they can make. And their manufacturing capacity is only going to be 200,000 a year starting next year. So I think they're going to sell all of those vehicles. And B, the Rivian as a technology company is way undervalued for the types of technologies that is unique in the car industry. And the combination of those two things, having vehicles that people love that is going to scale very rapidly over the course of the next few years, and technology that nobody else has except for Tesla, is a great combination, which I think is going to play out extremely well for them over the next 5 years. Now, when in those next 5 years it it turns out that the stock price starts to reflect that thesis is hard to sort of predict. And until they're shipping in volume R2 and until um, they become a profitable company, we might see a lot more fluctuation. And markets can be very irrational sometimes in the short term. You know, I would not be shocked if we saw new lows, 52-week lows of Rivian in the meantime. But also, I would not be shocked if we saw new 52-week highs because other investors might see the things that I'm seeing and get excited and come in. Just, as we saw new 52-week highs in the past month and a half, right? So both of those things are possibilities, and this is the sort of joy of investing. And patience is hard, um, but you gotta learn to be patient, I guess, is
Yeah.
is my view on it, and I've learned that lesson.
Doing some very basic technical analysis on Rivian, which Hamid, I know you don't love. The current price that Rivian's at is an interesting one because this range has roughly been historical resistance where it hasn't been able to break through. It broke through, got to around $20 after the Autonomy Day event, and now we're back down here. So, what I'm curious about in the short term is this price point going to become support? Because often previous resistance does become support, or are we going to break down further, like you mentioned, where we could easily go back to a 52-week low?
Well, if technical analysis had any weighing, you should be able to tell us that based on the technical analysis.
The
This is
way
why I
the way I view technical analysis is not that it's telling you anything with 100% certainty, but it's mapping out probabilities. So you could have a better sense of like where something can go or the likelihood of where it can go. And I do think that those probabilities are less useful if the price is going into unknown territory, meaning if it's going into all-time highs, kind of like Moo or Micron, you can like do some wizardry around it.
yeah,
I buy less into, but if you're looking at historical price action, I think it could give you a sense of you know
I love
where price
I
can
love
go.
statistics and probability because 87.6% of all statistics are made up. So
Wonderful.
yeah. People's
Thank you for
reactions to
that.
that is often including that one. Yes, duh. Of course, including that one.